And it reminds me of a quote by Maya Angelou where she says, "You only are free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place, no place at all." Period. She put that part in there, but that's what she meant, right? Because who gets to decide where we belong? Who created that rule? Right, we create these barriers and we sort people and say, Beyonce belongs in this category, and she disrupted that.
We're not dolls. We're not dolls.
We're not dolls. We're not pawn pieces, right, that you can say, here's where we belong.
Blackbirds singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All my life, I've been waiting for this moment to arrive.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Emma.
Welcome to Living in 3D Power. Discover your truth, discern your path, determine your power. I'm Dr. Amber Sessoms, and together, let's unlock our power, build authentic connections, and foster collective liberation. Hey y'all, welcome back to episode 5 of Living in 3D Power. We're continuing our Black History Month celebration where we're focusing on a Black girl, an ancestor, and a present-day Black woman who exemplifies some of the same strengths as Emma. So last week, if you recall, we focused on kindness and love, and this week we're focusing on Emma's third strength, which is humor. And that's under the umbrella of transcendence. So thinking about how do we maintain our joy and hardships and difficulties and make sense about the chaos that's going on around us. And how we're going to be focusing on that for this episode is focusing on the power of music. Can't think of anything greater. Emma absolutely loves music. If y'all have been listening, you know her It's Me song, and it might be stuck in your head a little bit. I know I can't get the beat and the song out of my head. Sometimes I wake up hearing the song replaying in my head. But we're going to be focusing on that because she also infused some humor in that song. If you heard her wild noises she makes in the microphone. So using humor and music as a tool for healing, it's so important. And in this world, it's really heavy right now. But music has been a tremendous tool for healing and spirituality and transformation, especially within the Black community. And Emma and I are going to be talking about that today. And I have a question for y'all, though. If you use Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube Music, what was your most played songs from this previous month? And I think if you take some time to look at that, it might tell you something about how you're coping, what you're listening to, because if you stay tuned, you'll hear what Emma listens to when she's upset. And we have to have a conversation about maybe we can make some better choices about your music. But for me, if I go to my list and I have my phone here, I use Apple Music because it came free with my phone plan, and it gives you a replay. So it's already replayed my January playlist, and my top artist for the past month was Lo-Fi. And I remember saying to Alexa, play Lo-Fi music, meaning low frequency music. And apparently that's an artist, and it's been playing that music. And Lo-Fi kind of helps you to settle and calm and really keep you focused. And then the top album, because Emma and I were in conversation about Cowboy Carter, was the top album I listened to, thinking about the history and how that weaves in, which we'll talk about today. And if I go to my top songs, let's see what it says here. Maverick City Music and Songhouse Well, Well, Well was number 3. And Doe, if y'all are not familiar with Doe, I will put these links in the show notes as well. Doe is an amazing gospel artist. She just won a Grammy for Best Contemporary Gospel Music Album. Phenomenal voice. She has a song called Holy Hands, and she also has a song with Israel and New Breed that they did this amazing album, I think too, during COVID. And this one is called Broken People, and I absolutely love that song. So for you, what are you listening to? What did you listen to last month? And thinking about, was that the best choice in music? Did it help me to cultivate joy, to remind myself of who I am and my strength and my power, or did it further sink me into despair? So also thinking about Emma is discovering her own voice, right? So again, you've heard her song, but she's now singing on the gospel choir at church. And she has a really big idea about how we can take Aretha Franklin's song, Respect, and revamp that with a really important collaborator, singer. So stay tuned for that, because I asked her about if we had a present day civil rights movement song, what would that be? Or who would sing it? And she raised her hand like she would sing it, but she wants to partner with someone on that. So stay tuned for that. And also in this episode, we're going to be honoring 3 phenomenal women, and these women, Kierra Sheard. So thinking about a child artist, I think she started singing at the age of 6. Her mother is gospel music royalty, Karen Clark Sheard, and Aretha Franklin. And you will soon find out why that is Emma's girl. She literally says she's her girl. She's the queen of soul. Obviously, we all know that. We talk about her and her song Respect and how that was pivotal during the civil rights movement. And lastly, none other than Beyoncé. Again, so timely because she just finally won a Grammy for Album of the Year. And it's really impactful because she also won Country Music Album of the Year. For a Black woman to win in that genre where they say we don't belong is powerful. And we're going to talk about Emma's friend and what she said to her the day after the Grammys, and Emma and her magnificent clapback, because she knows Black history. And also thinking about gospel choirs in this moment. I sang on the gospel choir in college into my young adult life, and I do miss it, y'all. It's a lot of work, but I do miss it. There's nothing better than singing gospel music with a live band and singing 4-part harmony. I remember my husband took me to the Kirk Franklin concert at I think it was called Homecoming or Homegoing. It couldn't have been Homecoming because in Black culture, homegoing is a funeral service. But I think it was called the Reunion Tour. There it is, the Reunion Tour. And Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond, 2 of my all-time favorites when I started listening to more contemporary gospel music. It was those 2. Karen Clark Sheard, the Clark sisters, and Yolanda Adams, and Marvin Sapp, and Kierra opened up the show. So it was really cool to see them. And I remember my husband saying to me, he's never been to a gospel concert. He's like, what's it like? And he's trying to compare it to other secular artists. And I'm like, oh, it's a totally different experience. And the thing that I love most about particularly this concert and any gospel concert I've been to is that I think probably half of the people there are gospel singers or want to be gospel singers. So everybody starts to singing. It's kind of like people were talking about Wicked. Please do not come to the theater singing the song. But when you are going to a gospel concert, there is usually a part in the gospel concert where the audience just starts becoming the choir. And the singers don't even have to say anything. And I remember that happening. And I think it was a Fred Hammond song. And no, I think it was when Kirk was at the piano playing his songs, not a word, just playing the melodies to his songs. And we all knew the lyrics and started singing. And it was a huge arena. I can't remember the name of the Philly arena, right next to the Eagles Stadium. And everyone just erupted in singing in 4-part harmony. And my husband's like, wow, it was so amazing to hear and be a part of that. So these are the things when you're thinking about how we're interconnected, how we're singing songs to get us through. And gospel music does that for me. So if I'm going to listen to anything, that's what I'm going to listen to, because I need that personally in these moments as a reminder. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Emma and I as we talk about musical genres, as we talk about what we listen to when we're upset, and how we can reclaim our joy, and how these artists are historical and how they've helped us to identify and name that we have a rich tapestry and a rich history in music. We are wholly creative and innovative beings as Black people, and we are not just entertainers. This music is not just to have a vibe and to feel good. There's actually meaning behind this, and it actually helps us with our movement work, which we need now more than ever. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Emma. I hope you enjoy her singing and Mama stepping in for a brief second to sing with her. Enjoy.
It's me, it's me, it's me. It's me, it's me, it's me. Woo! 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 it's me, Emma. Welcome back to Living in 3D Power, and today we are going to talk about humor.
Humor. So this is which number of your strengths?
3.
So 3 in the VIA character strengths assessment. The first one was kindness, love, and now we're on the third, which is humor. We're going to tie that in with some amazing Black girls and women for today's episode. And humor is under the umbrella of transcendence, according to VIA character strengths. That's a big word, but how they define it is connecting to the larger universe and providing meaning, bringing joy, seeing the light, and finding laughter in challenges, which I think couldn't be more relevant than today because the world and all the things that are going on, if y'all can't see her face, she's making this face like clenching her jaws and smiling through the tensity of the moment. But finding the joy and finding the meaning in all of the chaos is part of transcendence. I can still find the meaning and find the light at the end of the darkness. And I think it's such a beautiful strength for you. And actually also how they define humor is it involves the ability to make other people smile or laugh. It also means having a composed and cheerful view on adversity, so challenges, that allows an individual to see its light side and thereby sustain a good mood. Super important. And I can't think of anything more important than talking about sustaining a good mood, finding the light, than to talk about some amazing singers and songwriters. So the first thing I want to ask you is thinking about you have the strength of humor is have you ever used music to feel more confident or deal with something difficult? And if so, how did it help you?
I think when I'm sad, I listen to music and I color, and it makes me feel better.
Is there certain music you listen to when you're sad?
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish. Okay, so nothing wrong with Billie Eilish.
Or I listen to rock music.
Rock music, do you name some rock artists?
I forget the person's name that I listen to. It's Nirvana?
Nirvana.
It's Nirvana. But I'm not sure that's rock. They called it grunge.
Grunge, okay, excuse me. So you are 10 years old thinking about music that was around when I was in middle school. So is that retro? I'm not sure. So you're saying Billie Eilish and Nirvana. And I will say, being a school psychologist, what I found was a lot of students when they were in their quote unquote bag, I'm not sure if that's still a term people use today.
Bag?
So when they were feeling bad about themselves or when they were feeling down, they say they're in their bag, they would put on really sad music, which wouldn't necessarily help them to feel better. It would just make them further sink into depression or feel even worse about themselves. So I think it's really important when we're listening to the lyrics, especially if we're feeling badly about ourselves or about what's going on in the world. It doesn't always help to listen to songs that are going to make you feel worse. Not to say that Billie Eilish or Nirvana are those songs, but I'm just saying we have to be cautious about the songs we're listening to. But I think what it can also do if there's songs that evoke emotion in us and tap into what we're actually feeling, I think that's also really important because Billie Eilish, Nirvana, and all these other songwriters that really tap into the human experience about despair, it helps us to feel, and sometimes we numb ourselves to feeling. So I think, yes, if I am sad and I'm going to listen to a sad song, it can help me know that I'm still human and that I'm less alone, but we just can't stay there, right? We can't just put on sad music all day and stay there. But I think that is really important. And it made me think about earlier we were listening to Earth is Ghetto by Aaliyah Sheffield, and she's talking about she is just beam me up, get me out of this place. These people are ridiculous and wilding out. And even though she's agitated, irate about the world, there's truth in that, right? Like, she's not wrong. Yeah. So I think there is power in, yes, let's listen to songs that really talk about what's happening currently in our world, which is why I think this is such a great topic, especially in light of what's going on today. So I totally agree with you. I think those are okay choices. Maybe we'll find some better ones for you as a 10-year-old, but which is why we have child protection locks on your devices so that you can't just play whatever you want. So note to self, Mom. Okay.
I can't listen to Nirvana.
I'm just saying, we just have to make sure that it's child appropriate.
It is.
Okay. Well, we know we have all those safety features on, so you can't listen to explicit lyrics and all of those things. So that's really important. Okay. Retro music.
I do not like bad words.
I know you don't like bad words, so that is true. So we're going to talk about 3 awesome individuals. Remember, a child figure, an ancestor, and then a present-day Black woman. So who is the child figure we're going to talk about today?
Kierra Sheard.
Okay, so child figure is Kierra Sheard, and what are the lyrics to the song, the church song?
What you gonna do when your back's against the wall?
I thought you were going to sing it.
Do you want me to?
I was just wondering because you were almost in the rhythm. I was like, is she going to sing it? You don't have to, but I thought you were going to burst into song for a second.
If you want me to.
Oh, listen, I think the audience would love to hear that. She's deep breathing, y'all. You don't have to.
No, I want to. I can't. I'll just say it.
Okay.
What you gonna do when your back's against the wall? How you gonna smile when it seems all hope is lost? Tell me what you gonna do when you try to, when you need a little more grace. How you gonna respond when you're trying to test your faith? Hang on in there. Hang on in there.
Okay, sing, talk, singing. You did it. I love that. So who is Kierra Sheard? And she is part of gospel royalty, okay? She is a daughter of Karen Clark Sheard. So I grew up listening to Karen Clark Sheard and her family, the Clark sisters. So Kierra and her mother, Karen Clark Sheard, I remember when she made her debut singing, and the song was The Will of God. She was 9 years old, so it was Karen's album. It wasn't Finally. Was it Finally, Karen? I'm looking at my notes, y'all. You know we take notes. Yes, 1997. At the age of 8, she actually won a Stellar Award for Best Children's Performance with the song The Will of God. So you remember listening to that, and her mom would do a run, and then Kierra would do a run, and she was 9 years old, so 1 year younger than you, and she won a Stellar Award for Best Children's Performance at the age of 9, winning an award.
Crazy.
So, right? That's amazing. So thinking about, she has this creativity, this love of singing. She gets it naturally from her gospel royal family. I have a question for you, though, regarding Kierra Sheard. How do you think gospel music, because she's not like Billie Eilish or Nirvana. I'm not side-eyeing. I'm just saying it's different.
It is.
So how do you think gospel music helps people feel better when they're sad or worried?
I think it helps them feel better when they're sad or worried because it talks about how there is some hard things and that you can overcome it and how God can help you.
I love that. So even thinking about the lyrics that you were talking, hang on in there. And what else? Are there any other songs that come to mind to remind you that God is there, God's going to see you through?
There's a other song that you play in the car a lot.
I do? What's the song?
It's called Smile.
Who sings Smile?
Kurt Franklin.
So do you know the lyrics to that song? Mm-hmm. Since you say I play it in the car all the time.
I know some.
Okay, what's some?
Since you didn't put it on this.
No, you're supposed to know this song. Since you say I play it all the time. When I'm giving you cheat sheet. What's the song? I mean, the title gives you a hint to how it starts.
I smile, even though I hurt, see I smile. I know God is working, so I smile. Even though I've been it for a while, I smile.
I love that. So even though I'm in it for a while, I smile. So we might be in a really hard season, like we're in right now with this current presidency. but there's a deep, deep joy that can't be taken away from me. It's like the world didn't give it to me. The world can't take it away. That's an old gospel song, but meaning God put this joy on the inside of us in the Holy Spirit. Nothing, no person, no situation can take away that joy. It's our birthright. So we hold on to that. We don't deny what's happening in the world, right? We have to go through it, just as Jesus came and had to do all the sacrifices that he made, all the things that he experienced on this earth, all the grief and the pain. He experienced it all so that we know that we can overcome anything. So also what I think is interesting is that you're saying I play a lot of Kirk Franklin, and I do love Kirk Franklin. So I grew up African Methodist Episcopal, which is really traditional reading and singing from the hymnals. But I remember when I started listening to Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond, and this guy I was dating at the time, he was like, that is not gospel music. And I'm like, yes, of course it is, right? And I'm thinking about Fred Hammond, Pages of Life. He literally took biblical verses and made them into songs. And I thought that was the coolest thing because they weren't traditional choir songs. They were kind of contemporary, kind of like, I could still tell they were Christian songs. It wasn't too far where I was like, what the heck am I listening to? Which is what I think is really cool about Kierra Sheard, because she says, and I quote, fans have told me that they want message-oriented music they can listen to without feeling they have to be at a revival. Quality, fun music with an inspirational message that they can play at home, in a shop, or bang in your car with the windows down. That's my calling. So I love that she's tapped into what her purpose is, and thinking about her family legacy, the Clark sisters, how they had more contemporary gospel music, and they made it their own, and then she just did her own thing with it. So it still has an inspired message. It's still very God-centered, but it gives you a vibe to it. So thinking about even Kirk Franklin and his music and how it was so different for that time period, I'm making myself sound really old. But thinking about the time period, I know there's something he says at his concerts. He's like, who were they ones that were with me when my teeth weren't fixed? So he has really, not that he didn't have beautiful teeth then, but he will say that. But it was really controversial for the music that he made back then because people weren't used to that type of gospel music. But now he's opened up a whole new genre of gospel music so that people that might not connect with the traditional hymns or grew up in traditional church can still be inspired by the word of God through more nuanced ways of singing, like Kierra Sheard. So now we're going to segue to our second person. And you have, for those of you who are not watching, Emma has on her RESPECT Aretha Franklin t-shirt that she got from Aunt Dana for, was that your birthday or Christmas?
Birthday.
Because I have never met a 10-year-old that calls Aretha Franklin, when you say she's your girl. I think the best thing for you was in third grade when Mr. B was your teacher and he had a vinyl record collection and he would play music every day and you were putting him on to some new music. And what did you get Mr. B for Christmas? A vinyl record of
Aretha Franklin.
What 10-year-old gets their teacher a vinyl record of Aretha Franklin and says, Aretha is my girl?
I didn't say that.
You said it a couple weeks. You said, oh, I want to talk about Aretha Franklin because she is my girl.
Yeah, but I didn't say it to Mr. B.
No, you didn't say it to Mr. B, but we all know how you feel about Aretha. I mean, what do you have for the listeners and viewers today? You have two of your Aretha Franklin books, and what books do you have here?
I have Who Was Aretha Franklin and Respect Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul.
And that second book, who was that written and illustrated by? Because it is absolutely gorgeous. Carol Boston Weatherford and art by Frank Morrison. It is Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. And I think the page that I think is really impactful for it even right now, I'm trying to turn to it. There's two pages. So RIGHT, they spell out everything kind of how they spelled out respect. It says, for the civil rights movement for racial equality, Aretha raises funds and gives concerts for free. And such beautiful, if y'all can see it if you're watching, pictures of some of our civil rights heroes and Claudette Colvin and other people in here that were in the civil rights. I think that's Sidney Poitier, Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife, Coretta Scott King. And this is down here, Rustin, who helped organize the March on Washington. Some amazing individuals. I think that might be Reverend Abernathy up here. And then the second page, I love this. Someday we'll all be free. And it shows her singing in front of a crowd of people that were protesting for their rights to be free during the civil rights movement. So thinking about Aretha and the time period she grew up in during the civil rights movement, getting to really know Martin Luther King Jr. as friends and family, because her dad was a big time pastor in Detroit. And the lyrics for Respect are R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Take out T-C-B. People get that all the way wrong.
Me too.
What did you think it said?
I thought it said R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out somethings.
Yeah, no one really knew, but TCB means take care of business. So do what you have to do, right? So the song originally, and you've listened to some Otis Redding songs, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. He originally wrote or sang the song Respect, but it was really from a man's perspective, talking about women, you need to give me what's due to me. You need to respect me as this hardworking man. So she took the song in 1967 and flipped it to say, show me some respect. Oh, and your shirt says 1968, right? So think about, this was a big turning point for her. I think she might have been 24, 26, something around that time period. So she's saying, oh, no, I'm going to take that song back and I'm going to reclaim it from a women's perspective. She had her sisters. Remember, we watched the documentary and we watched some other Riri, and that was her nickname, right? So they put that Sock It To Me part in there, and it became an instant hit. And I remember they said, Otis Redding actually said, well, she took that song and made it her own. It's no longer my song. Instant success for that song. And I think she had 6 or 7 albums by that point that didn't have any success, but that catapulted her to success. The wild part for me, not the wild, like thinking about, that was 1967, almost a year to the date, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. He was so close to her. She helped him on a campaign. She raised money. She did all these things. So she sings at his funeral. Can you imagine? That's almost like you singing at daddy's funeral or something like that. Like, how hard would that be? You have this voice. People want to hear from you. They want to be comforted by you. And you're trying to comfort yourself. You're grieving as well. And she was able to get up there and sing Precious Lord, which was one of his favorite songs. Wasn't a dry eye in the house.
We watched a documentary about her, and there was a one scene where she was singing that song and she was crying.
I actually don't remember that part.
You don't remember that?
Is this the one where Jennifer Hudson played her?
Yeah.
I don't remember that
You don't
part.
remember that? We watched it like 3 times.
I know. Again, y'all, this kid was literally like the one day she's like, I want to watch the Aretha Franklin movie. And you were engaging in the movie so much. And I remember you saying, why is that man coming into her room? And she's little. And we talked about how you have to protect yourselves, because she experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of harm. Like, grown men hurt her, right, when she was little. And I remember you saying, he should be coming in her room. Like, what does he want to do with her?
I would have karate chopped him.
Right. So thinking
Kung
about
fu.
How do you protect yourself? How do you make sure the adults in your life are supposed to keep you safe? And that we know, right? We know that if a grown man or a grown woman or whoever wants to be your friend on that level, when they are more interacting with you than they are with the adults, then that's a major red flag, right? And they should never want to come into your room or anything like that. So we learned some things. We were able to talk through that movie about some important life lessons there. So there was a lot of things going on because her dad was really busy in the ministry and some other things that she wasn't really protected like she needed to be. And because of all of that hurt and stuff she experienced at such a young age, she was able, though, to make something beautiful out of that pain, which is really challenging, but she was able to do that. She overcame a lot of stuff. So thinking about her song Respect, also thinking about it became a civil rights movement. Oh, you have something in your book, right, related to that? So what do you have in your Who Was Aretha Franklin book?
Respect hit the charts on April 29th, 1967. It became an instant hit. Many people in the late 1960s America were demanding respect for themselves and fighting for civil rights, women's rights, and gay rights.
So demanding respect for themselves during a time where they weren't respected. They didn't even have laws to protect them.
Tis, tis, tis.
Tis, tis, tis. I think that's one of your your lines. So you tis, tis, tis. So thinking about that time period, remember we were watching documentaries and thinking about the children that were doing the lunch sit-ins and refusing to leave the table or being hosed down or having dogs sicked on them. And this is part of the civil rights movement where the world was looking at America and saying, tis, tis, tis. Literally saying, we're no longer going to do trades with you. We're no longer going to support you. We're pulling our money and our resources out because you are harming children. And if there's anything a country should be doing is protecting our children. So that was a big turning point for them. So thinking about she's doing this song, she takes the song back, Respect, from Otis Redding and says, okay, we're going to say the women are demanding respect. Then it becomes a song for the civil rights movement is saying we are demanding respect as Black people, as queer people, as people that are experiencing poverty, and saying government respect us, give us our respect, give us our propers is what was part of the song. Like we deserve respect simply because we're human beings. So the question then becomes, if respect was a brand new, so thinking present day, current moment, if this is a brand new song today, do you think people would still connect with its message? Why or why not?
I think people would understand it as much as it was before because there is a lot of things happening because of the current president and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So respect, thinking about I deserve respect. There's so much disrespect going on with people that look like us, people that we can make different than us. And they're saying, we're going to take away your rights, or now we're going to go in and look at your private information and have access to that. That's pretty scary, right? So thinking about all these things that are happening, that's disrespectful. And so I think this song would really resonate today. And maybe thinking about we're in this present day moment, who's going to be the new Aretha Franklin of our time to come up with a song to impact? Oh, you're pointing at yourself. You going to write a song?
Me and
for this
SZA.
current movement. You and who?
SZA.
You and SZA. SZA, if you're listening, Emma says she wants to write a new civil rights movement song, a new movement song with you for this current moment. Listen, we are about freedom dreaming here. We're going to speak that thing out there, and you never know. Maybe SZA will be like, where's my girl Emma at? Let's write that song. Let's go for it. Put it out there. You put it out there. Let's see what happens. So Emma and SZA are going to write a new present day respect song to get us through this current moment and this movement work that we're about to engage in. I love it. So also some things about Aretha, 18 Grammy Awards and 5 recordings are in the Grammy Hall of Fame because, you know, the Grammys was last weekend. And also, which I think is amazing because Rolling Stone does, I think they started out with 100 back in 2009 or so, and now they're up to 200 of the best singers of all times. And guess who's number one? Your girl. Aretha, the Queen of Soul, is number one, undefeated, reigning champion, best voice of all time. Okay, so give her her propers, y'all. Who is the last person on our list for transcendence, like making meaning from everyday singing, but there's a message in there?
Beyoncé.
Beyoncé, or as your pop calls her,
What?
Buoyancy.
Buoyancy?
Because he doesn't say her name right.
Buoyancy.
He doesn't say her name right to be disrespectful because he just sometimes gets names wrong. But
A lot.
in her album, in the song Yaya, I'm pretty sure it's Yaya, like she, where they're spelling things out, they're like Beyince. I can't even do it as fast as they do it. She's spelling Beyoncé or whatever they spelled it because apparently back in the day, her mom's maiden name was Beyoncé. And on her birth certificate, they misspelled it. They went to the courthouse to get it changed. And they said, you should just be happy that you even have a birth certificate because people like you, racism, right? So she's reclaiming that. So she put that in her album. And I think there's a picture of her with a sash and she's almost in this American-esque pose, but she has a sash with the misspelling of her name on it. And I think that's really powerful, thinking about how do we reclaim the stories that have been told about us and how do we say, I'm demanding respect simply because I'm a human being. And it doesn't matter what my skin color is, but I have an origin story that comes from power and purpose. So she wrote this song, Ya Ya. And what are some of the lyrics to that song?
My family live and die in America, good old America.
Yeah, good old USA. Whole lot of red and that white and blue. History can't be erased. She's talking about a whole lot of red. That's blood. Thinking about our ancestors who were enslaved here in America, who built this country, who were taken from our land, mostly from the western coast of Africa, brought here against our will, ripped apart from our families and our culture. And she's talking about this good old USA, history can't be erased, which I think is so important because in this moment, the administration is trying to take away books that teach us about the truth of our history. And you think about other countries and how they are saying we can't ever forget our history. There's something particular about America, and I think Professor Eddie Glaw talks about this, where he's like, we have this nostalgic amnesia, meaning that we want to think about America as so perfect and so great. And you know how last episode we were like, we're not perfect, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm un-American. Like James Baldwin talks about, I love America enough to critique her. So if I didn't love you right now, I have to tone it down, you said with you though. But there's sometimes I have to do some critique or some constructive criticism or some explaining of things. It's the same thing with America. We can't just blindly walk around being like, everything's great here, everything's great, right? That doesn't help. So she's saying, good old USA, looking for a new America. Are you tired working time and a half for a half the pay? I just pray that we don't crash. Keep my Bible on the dash. We got to keep the faith. Wildfire burnt his house down. Insurance ain't gonna pay no Fannie Mae. We got to keep the faith. And I think right about now, think about the wildfires in Los Angeles and how historically Black communities probably will not get the insurance claims that other more affluent millionaires will get. So thinking about how unfair these things are when we think about generational wealth. So the big thing about this album, remember we were watching, I don't even watch TV, but we turned on the Grammys real quick and we saw her win Country Album of the Year. We were like, we were screaming and yelling, and I was like, oh, people are going to be so upset, right? Because she won this Grammy. And you went to school the next day, and what did your friend say to you?
My friend said that she didn't deserve to win the Grammy. Your face, you're like...
My face, like, I was like, what? And I'm like, so my question always to you is like, when you come home, you say, my friend said this. I said, so what was your response?
I said, we created country music.
I'm like, this 10-year-old, not with the clap bag, not with the, I'm going to drop some wisdom on you, friend, and let you know, don't say she didn't deserve it because we created country music. And I think that's so powerful. And what was her response to that?
She was in awe. She didn't know.
She didn't know. And I think that is a beautiful part when she's talking about history can't be erased. Certain people, especially people in power right now, are trying to erase the full breadth of our history to try to create a narrative about who we are as Black people or people with disabilities or queer people or all these different people that don't fit into their box. So the way that you do that strategically is you take away all the things that tell the truth about who we are. But regardless of what policies, executive orders, regardless if they take their books away, we know the truth because it lives in our hearts, right?
It's in our stomach.
It's in our stomach. It's literally within us, right? No one can take that away. It's in our blood. It's literally ancestral wisdom and all of the things that our ancestors passed along to us, our resilience, our strength, our creativity, our genius is within our veins. So no amount of executive orders or, I'm not going to learn about Black history, all these things we're trying to take away, doesn't erase our history, right? Because we have books, and we're going to continue to buy books, and we're going to continue to pass that down generation after generation.
Brain food.
Brain food, right. So I think the thing that's really powerful is that this album in particular, you said you went to school and your friend said she didn't deserve it, and you said, we actually created country music. I think there's a lot of truth in that because Ken Burns is an amazing documentarian. I think I'm saying that correctly. So he does 16-hour documentaries on PBS.
That's too long.
But you watch it in segments. So he does amazing documentaries, and he did one on country music. And something he said in there is that every facet of country music is a result of African and African-American traditions. So thinking about the banjo, that little banjo, when they captured us, when they did all this trafficking, and stealing us and bringing us to this country, they also brought rice and goods and our foods and our culture and our instruments with us. Our culture came with us. They couldn't erase it no matter how they tried. But what they did, because they couldn't fully erase it, they took all the things that we created and they said, oh, we actually created this, which is why your friend believes, and a lot of people believe, that Beyonce doesn't deserve to be country album of the year or album of the year because it is not a black genre. And who gets to say what's a black and white genre? Because this is the amazing part. She did this album as a clapback to people saying, oh, you don't think I belong here? She did her history, which is what I love. So we will sometimes hear messages. You know how earlier today, we talked with a bunch of girls and thinking about who tells you where you belong and where you don't belong. And when we do our own research and we know the truth about who we are and our people and our family and our history, we hold our heads high, we roll our shoulders back, and we say, oh, they're the ones living a lie, but I know the truth. So I think that is awesome. She did all this history. She poured it into her music, thinking about black artists who toured in the Chitlin Circuit. So this Chitlin Circuit was during segregation, where you could only perform in black-owned establishments or people that were friendly to black people. They wanted to listen to us. They wanted us to entertain, but we would have to go through the back doors. We couldn't even go through the main doors. All of these things that dehumanize us. You want to hear our music. You want us to sing for you, but we're not welcome to dine with you. Is really hurtful. So she did all of those kind of things, and she tied her family history in and the context of economic, racial, and social inequality, which I think is so important in her music. So wins the Grammys. She's won every Grammy except for Album of the Year. She finally won, which she should have won, people will say, albums ago. But she finally won that. And I think the other part is, and I heard you singing this song earlier, Blackbird by Paul McCartney from the Beatles. I think that's the second song on the album. And I think what's really amazing about this is that, you know how Aretha Franklin, she took Otis Redding's song and she switched it to make it about women's empowerment? Beyonce doesn't change Paul McCartney's song at all, Blackbird. She keeps it the same, but what she does is she brings in, I think it was 4. So black country singers Tanner Adele, Brittany Spencer, Tierra Kennedy, and Raina Roberts. So she brings in 4 black female country music artists into this song, Blackbird.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All my life, I've been waiting for this moment to arrive.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Emma. And I think the symbolism of Blackbird is Paul McCartney talks about it was during the civil rights movement. So thinking back to Aretha Franklin, I think this is a beautiful tie-in where he's watching what's happening in America, again, where they're like, tis, tis, tis. What the heck are y'all doing, America? So thinking about Little Rock 9, where they're desegregating schools and they're throwing things at kids and calling them names. Children, adults are doing this. And he's like, what is happening? And he's particularly thinking about black girls. So in England, they call girls bird. So he made the song Blackbird, so black girl. So I think it's a powerful symbolism there, which I think is the amazing part about music, is that it seems like, oh, I'm just listening to this for fun. But through our history, African Americans, and enslaved people, we would be in the field and we would sing songs to let us know where we could escape or when we could take a break. Because if you took a break, you could be hurt or worse in the field. So they would sing certain songs to be in a rhythm and a cadence, and then you could take a break and no one would notice it. Like, it's time for you to take a break. We had songs that would let us know where to travel to be free. All of these things and innovation was so true to who we are as a people. So I love that she's reclaiming that and saying, all my life, I've been waiting for this moment to arrive. I think it's just beautiful. So the question I have for you is, how do you think Beyonce uses her music to show that no one could tell us, black girl, Blackbird, where we do or don't belong?
So she used to be like hip hop, I think, or pop.
Or I don't know what category they put her. Maybe they put her in pop, like R&B, whatever the quote unquote black category was. That's where they said, Beyonce, you belong in this category. R&B belong in that category, Beyonce.
And now she's in country, and people told her to stay in pop or something, or whatever genre she was in before, but she didn't listen.
Because, and it reminds me of a quote by Maya Angelou where she says, "You only are free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place, no place at all."
Period.
Period. She put that part in there, but that's what she meant, right? Because who gets to decide where we belong? Who created that rule? Right. Like they create these barriers and we sort people and say, Beyonce belongs in this category. And she disrupted that.
We're not dolls. We're not dolls.
We're not dolls. We're not pawn pieces that you can say, here's where we belong. So I think that's a beautiful thing. But also, she says, I'm going to research our history, but I'm also going to affirm and uplift the women and the men, the Black country people that have been doing this all along. And I love what she did when she received her Album of the Year. She dedicated it to Linda Martell, who was the first solo Black woman country artist to play in the Grand Ole Opry. So paying homage to our ancestors is so key. There's so much power and beauty in that. Sometimes we think when I get to this next level, I forget where I came from. But she's like, there's Sankofa. It's like turn back and return to where you came from. So remembering our ancestors, remembering our elders, and pulling them up alongside, because if it wasn't for them, we would not be where we are. And thinking about the phrase of, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. So we are living in the manifestation of what our ancestors prayed for, Emma. Do you ever think they imagine you as you're in your present day self, all your glory and all your freedoms that you have? And actually, I think the answer to that is that they did, because there's something inherent about Black people is that we will disrupt and redefine what the world says that we are. And we say, you don't know the truth of who I am, but let me tell you, and let me pray for that to exist, and let me live in my dignity and my truth. Even if you want to discredit me, I'm going to walk in my dignity because I know who I am. And I think that is beautiful, because we are literally living in a manifestation of our ancestors' wildest dreams. So we're going to keep on dreaming. Blackbird, we're flying.
Caw, caw.
I love that. So final, as we wrap up here, what do you take away from thinking about Kierra Sheard, your girl Aretha Franklin, and Beyonce? What's the lesson, what's the nugget from their beautiful contributions to the world? As you pretend to chew a nugget.
To be yourself. And you could be a singer and you have a voice.
So even if you're not a singer, do you still have a voice?
Mm-hmm. You have a voice no matter what.
You have a voice no matter what. So final parting words for our guest today.
Caw, caw.
Blackbird.
Sing in the dead of night. Take these chicken wings and learn to fly.
All my life,
I've been waiting for this moment to arrive.
Yes.
Okay, and we're back. I hope you enjoyed that episode. You could hear at the end Emma's rendition of Blackbird, Chicken Wings, Learn to Fly. Obviously, that's not the original lyrics, but Emma, again, one of her strengths is humor. So she put a little humor in there. So thinking also about Emma's vision. Again, y'all, community, let's come together to tag SZA to say, Emma wants to sing a new civil rights movement respect-esque song with you. She is saying to you, SZA, let's go. Let's do this movement work. Let's create a song for this movement time right now. And I love that. She's confident. So community, help us out. Tag SZA, SZA, and let's make it happen. And I think it's also really important because my brother Jamal Nova Noon is a singer. I will put him in the show notes. Please check him out. He's an amazing R&B singer. He's encouraging Emma at her singing adventures. And he said to her the other week, you know, you listen to artists that you really like how they sing and you model and you mimic what they do. So every run that they do, all the things that they do, you do that, you practice. And then as you do that, you're going to find your own voice in the process. So I love that she can emulate some of these people like SZA, who she loves, making sure that those songs are age appropriate. We're going to stop listening to snooze. I'm going to blame that on my forever student, my child. So one of my children as school psychologist was watching Emma when Deb and I were on vacation, and I came home and Emma's singing Snooze. Khalees, I'm talking to you. She's singing Snooze on repeat because Khalees had her singing that song. So that's where she started this love affair with SZA. But also she really loves Kierra's voice. She thinks she has the most phenomenal gospel music voice. And Kierra learned them runs for her mama. So as we were talking about the will of God and Kierra was 9 and her mom would do it run and Kierra would do it run, I can see Emma doing this with her karaoke machine. So I'm sorry, household, in advance as Emma practices her runs, because she's going to be on that karaoke machine doing every Kierra Sheard SZA run known to this planet until she perfects that thing. And I'm here for it. So also thinking about, I really love that Emma is singing in the youth choir. So they get to sing once a month at church, and thinking about how I didn't sing as a youth in the church choir. We had a really small church a cappella group, which was phenomenal. Really thinking about Miss Carol and Miss Shirley. And I still have on my bookshelf, I still have the tuning. I don't know if it's called like a tuning whistle, but Miss Shirley was the choir director, and she would blow that whistle and have them on key, and they all sing a cappella, and it was beautiful. So my grandmother who raised me was on that choir, and I always loved listening to those songs growing up. And some of those songs were Clark Sisters songs. So I'm thinking about Working for a Miracle. Oh, like I just go back and I think it's very nostalgic for me and very grounding for me to think about. I had these phenomenal Black women in my life who had an awesome and amazing choir. So thinking about Miss Lee Bailey and thinking about Miss Charlie Mae Thomas and how they sang in this group. And it just brought me so much joy to see these Black women singing praises, singing super tight harmonies, and to see that and witness that every Sunday was beautiful. So I love that. And thinking about what I loved most, the Emma wisdom that she dropped, was when we were talking about Beyoncé and how her friend, she went to school and her friend was like, Beyoncé didn't deserve to win. And Emma claps back with, well, actually, Black people created country music. What I love about Emma is that she's going to know her history, and she's going to be unapologetic about letting her friends know the truth about our people and about who she is. And her friend's response was like, oh, I didn't know that. So I love that Emma can disrupt these narratives. And this is also why they're trying to erase our history, because if we don't know the truth of who we are, those stories that are so steeped in popular culture, where she has a friend who had no clue about this, and right, wrong, or indifferent, the ignorance that we have in our society, because it is intentional, that Emma knows the truth, which is also why I think documentaries are so important and books are so important of who she is. And when she hears that lie, she can disrupt it and she can give a counter narrative, and she knows the truth of who she is. So that just completely made my entire week, because she will stand 10 toes down and say, that's not true. I got receipts. We are amazing innovators in the face of unimaginable tragedy, that we can still find joy and humor in that. And we talk about, we laugh to keep from crying. And I think that can be very true of our culture in particular. The thing we have to remember, though, is that, yes, humor is a way that we get over, but it's also important that we sit in what we're feeling and experiencing. We don't use humor. We don't use music to escape it. We use it to help inform what we're feeling, to help us navigate it and metabolize it out of our body. So I think that's really key when Emma's talking about she's sad and she listens to Nirvana and Billie Eilish. And I'm like, let's find some other people to listen to. But I had to take a step and think about, there are certain artists, there are certain poets, think about James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, that help us to name what we're feeling, to sit in it. But there's also that caveat of, I am calling us to more. I am calling us to be fully human, to understand and accept who we actually are, so that we can transcend to something even greater That's a part of transcendence. It makes meaning. So I encourage you to think about what's the playlist, what's the soundtrack you're playing right now. I went through in the beginning before we talked to Emma and looked at the songs I listened to last month, but I also have a playlist that I created for my 3D Power Tools framework that I'm going to put in the show notes, and it walks you through music, mostly gospel music, inspirational music, through the power of discovery, discovering the truth of who you are, thinking about the power of discernment, understanding and knowing where those lies are so that you can discern the truth about who you are, and working towards the power of determination, which is our action. And that's what we're doing as a people. That's what I'm hoping this community does. I just listened to something AOC was saying about we can't be joyless people, because then what are we fighting for? So holding on to that joy reminds us of what this fight is for, not what we're against, because yes, we're against fascism. We're against white supremacy. We're against all of those things. What are we for? And holding on and reclaiming your joy is going to get you closer to that. And also, I hope that if this is resonating with you, please subscribe to my Substack where you can get the full video. If you're listening, you can actually watch us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can also watch shorts. Please like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, leave a review. I'd love to hear from you on Apple Music or Spotify. And this episode, I hope, is a reminder that you hold on to that joy. You hold on to that love, because it is your birthright. And no one, nothing is going to move you. You're going to be unshakable in your joy. So, Blackbird, Black girls out there, take these wings and learn to fly. Until next time, y'all, take care.